We ask courteously that you take your phones and put them on silent. They do mess with our microphones, and they also disturb other people. We would appreciate it if you put them to silent right now before we start.
I've got it, Miss Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Simmons? Mrs. Simmons is my mother, but she has guests this afternoon. Who wants her? Oh, hang on just a minute. Hang on just 1 minute.
Mother! Mother!
Yes, dear. Telephone.
Oh no, not with all of them in there. Say I'm busy.
But mother, it's the society.
Oh, the society editor. She's very important. Good afternoon, Miss Ellaby. Yes, this is Vita Simmons. Yes, a tea and a reception for the members of the Wednesday Forum. You might say, program tea. My mother, you know, the late Marcella Penny Dowd, pioneer cultural leader. She came here by ox team as a child. She founded the Wednesday Forum. Myrtle, how many would you say?
75 at least. Say 100.
75. Miss Tewksbury is the soloist, accompanied by Wilda McCurdy, accompanist.
Mother, come on. Miss Tewksbury's almost finished with her number.
She'll do an encore.
What if they don't give her a lot of applause?
I've known her for years. She'll do an encore. You might say that I am entertaining, assisted by my daughter, Miss Myrtle May Simmons. Myrtle, what color would you call that?
Rancho Rose, they told me.
Miss Myrtle May Simmons looked charming in a modish Rancho Rose-toned crepe, picked up at the girdle with a touch of magenta on emerald. Oh, I wish you could see her, Miss Ellerby.
Mother, please. She's almost finished, and where's the cateress?
Everything's ready. The moment she's finished, we open the dining room doors and begin pouring. The parlors and halls are festooned with similacs. Yes, festooned. That's right, Miss Ellerby. This is the first party we've had in years. There's a reason, but I don't want it in the papers. We all have our troubles, Miss Ellerby. The guest list, oh, yes.
Mother, come on.
If you'll excuse me, I'll call you later.
Mother, Mrs. Chauvenet just came in.
Mrs. Eugene Chauvenet, Sr.? Her father was a scout with Buffalo Bill.
So that's where she got that hat.
Myrtle, you must be nice to Mrs. Chauvenet. She is a grandson about your age.
But what difference will it make with Uncle Elwood?
We agreed not to talk about that this afternoon. The whole point of this whole party is to get you started. We work through the older women to get to the younger group.
But we can't have anyone here in the evenings, and that's when men come to see you, in the evenings. The only reason we can even have this party this afternoon is because Uncle Elwood is playing pinochle at the 4th Avenue Firehouse. Thank God for the firehouse.
I know, but they'll just have to invite you out, and it won't hurt them one bit. Oh, Myrtle, you've got so much to offer. There's something sweet about every young girl, and a man takes away that sweetness, and look what he does with it. But you've got to meet somebody, Myrtle. That's all there is to it.
If I do, they say, that's Myrtle May Simmons. Her uncle was Elwood P. Dowd, the biggest screwball in town. Elwood and his pal.
You promised!
All right, let's get them in the dining room.
Now, when the members come in here, and you make your little welcome speech on behalf of your grandmother, be sure to do this.
And then after that, I mention a few words about my uncle and his pal Harvey. Dang Harvey!
That's right. Let everybody in the Wednesday Forum hear you. You said that name, you promised you wouldn't say that name, and you said it.
I'm sorry, Mother, but how do you know Uncle Elwood won't come and introduce Harvey to everybody?
This is unkind of you, Myrtle May. Elwood is the biggest heartache I have. Even if people do call him peculiar, he's still my brother. And he won't be here this afternoon.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure.
But Mother, why can't we live like other people?
Must I remind you again? Elwood is not living with us. We are living with him.
Living with him and Harvey? Did Grandmother know about Harvey?
I've wondered and wondered about that. She never wrote me if she did.
But why did she have to leave all of her property to Uncle Elwood?
Well, I suppose it was because she died in his arms. People are sentimental about things like that.
You always say that and it doesn't make sense. She couldn't have made her will after she died, could she?
Don't be didactic, Myrtle May. It's not becoming in young women, and men loathe it. Now, Don't forget to wave your hand.
I'll do my best.
Oh dear, Miss Tewksbury's voice is certainly fading.
But not fast enough.
Lovely, Miss Tewksbury. Perfectly lovely. I loved it.
Excuse me, Harvey. I have to answer the phone. Hello? I believe you have the wrong number, but how are you anyway? This is Elwood P. Dowd speaking. I'll do? Well, thank you. And what is your name, my dear? Miss Elsie Greenewald. Harvey, it's a Miss Elsie Greenewald. How are you today, Miss Greenewald? Yes, dear. Oh, I would be happy to join your club. I belong to several clubs now. The University Club, the Country Club, and the Pinnacle Club at the 4th Avenue Firehouse. I spend a great deal of my time there, or at Charlie's place, or over at Eddie's Bar. And what is your club, Miss Greenewald? Harvey, I get the Ladies' Home Journal, the Open Road for Boys, and the Good Housekeeping for $6.25. Sounds fine to me. I'll join it. How about you, Harvey? Harvey says it sounds fine to him also. Yes, 2 subscriptions. Mail everything to this address. I hope I have the pleasure of meeting you sometime, my dear. Harvey, she said she would like to meet me. When? When would you like to meet me, Miss Greenewald? How about right now? My sister seems to be having a few friends over, and we would be delighted if you joined us. 343 Temple Drive. I hope to see you in a few minutes. Goodbye, my dear. Come on, Harvey, don't you think we'd better freshen up? Yes, so do I.
I can't seem to remember where I put my guest list. I must read it to Miss Elodie. Have you seen it, Miss Jones? No, I haven't, Mrs. Simmons. Look on my dresser.
Yes. Mother, Mrs. Chauvenet just came in and she's asking for you. Here's Mother, here she is.
Vita Louise Simmons, I thought you were dead.
Aunt Ethel.
Oh no, I'm very much alive, thank you.
And this full-grown girl is your daughter? I've known you since you were a baby.
I know.
What's your name, dear?
This is Myrtle May, for the 2 sisters of her father. He's dead. That's what confused you.
Where's Elwood?
Elwood couldn't be here this afternoon.
Oh, Elwood isn't here?
No.
Oh, shame on him. That's the main reason I came. I wanted to see Elwood.
Come, you mustn't miss the party. There's lots of people anxious to speak to you.
Do you realize, Vita, it's been years since I've seen Elwood.
No. Where does time go?
But I don't understand it. I was just saying to Mr. Chauvenet only the other night, what on earth do you suppose has happened to Elwood Dowd? He never comes to the club dances anymore. I haven't seen him at a horse show in years. Does Elwood see anybody these days?
Oh, yes, Aunt Ethel. Elwood sees somebody.
Oh, yes.
Your Uncle Elwood, child, is one of my favorite people. Always has been.
Yes, I remember.
Is Elwood happy, Vita?
Elwood's very happy, Aunt Ethel. You don't need to worry about him. Why, look, there's Mrs. Frank Cummings. Just came in. Don't you want to speak to her?
My, but she looks ghastly. Hasn't she failed, though?
If you think she looks badly, you should see him.
Is that so? I must have him over. She looks frightful. I thought she was dead.
Oh, no.
Now, what about tea, Vita?
Yes, if you'll forgive me, I will precede you.
Elwood! Elwood Dowd! Bless your heart!
Aunt Ethel, what a pleasure it is to come in and find a beautiful woman waiting for me.
Oh, Elwood, you haven't changed.
Come on, Aunt Ethel. You can't miss the party.
And there's plenty if you don't like tea.
But I do like tea. Stop pulling at me, you two. Elwood, what night next week can you come to dinner?
Any night at all, Aunt Ethel. I would be delighted.
Elwood, there's some mail for you today. I took it upstairs to your room.
Did you, Vita? That was very nice of you. Aunt Ethel, I would like you to meet Harvey. As you can see, he's a puka. Harvey, you've heard me speak of Mrs. Chauvenet. We always called her Aunt Ethel. She's one of my oldest and dearest friends. Yes, that's the one. Harvey says he would have known you anywhere. He two look very, very lovely. Come on in, Harvey. We must say hello to all of our friends. If you'll excuse me for one moment, Aunt Ethel.
What?
You are standing in his way. Come along, Harvey. Go right along in, Harvey. I'll see you in a minute. Aunt Ethel, I can see you are disturbed about Harvey. And please don't be. He looks that way at everybody. It's his way. But I could tell he liked you. He liked you a lot.
Some tea, perhaps? Why, not right now. I think I'll be running along.
But
I'm so sorry. I'll be talking to you soon. Goodbye.
oh God, oh my God.
Myrtle, where are you going?
Up to my room. He's introducing Harvey to everybody. I can't face those people now. I wish I were dead.
Come back here. Stay with me. We'll get him out of there and upstairs to his room.
I can't do it. I won't. I won't.
Now, pretend I'm fixing your corsage.
Oh, Mother.
Just do it. When you catch his eye, tell me. He always comes when I tell him to. Now then, do you see him yet?
No, not yet. How do you do, Mrs. Cummings?
Smile, can't you? Have you any pride? I'm smiling, and he's my own brother.
Oh, Mother, people get run over by trucks every day. Why can't something like that happen to Uncle Elwood?
This is unkind of you, Myrtle. This is not your uncle's fault.
Ouch, you're sticking me at that pin.
That's Miss Ellerby. Keep looking, keep smiling.
Mrs. Cummings is leaving. He must have told her what Harvey is. Oh, God.
Hello? Should you come in what you have on? What have you on? Should you what? Who is this? But I don't know any Miss Greenawalt. Who invited you? Mr. Dowd. Well, I'm sorry. I believe there's been a mistake. Well, I never.
Never what?
One of your Uncle Elwood's friends asked if she should bring a quart of gin to the Wednesday form.
There he is. He's talking to Mrs. Halsey.
Is Harvey with him?
What a thing to ask. How can I tell? How can anybody tell but Uncle Elwood?
Oh, Elwood, could I see you for a moment, dear? I promise you, this is the last time your uncle has disgraced us. I'm going to do something that I've never done before.
What did you mean just now when you said the thing is not Uncle Elwood's fault? If it's not his fault, whose fault is it?
Never you mind. I know whose fault it is. Now go back in and act as though nothing happened.
You're no match for Uncle Elwood.
You'll see.
Mother's waiting for you.
Elwood, could I speak to you for a moment, dear?
Of course, sister. Excuse me, Harvey.
Elwood, would you mind waiting here until the party is over? I have some things I want to talk to you about. It's very important.
Of course, sister. I happen to have a little bit of free time, and you're welcome to all of it, Vita. Should Harvey wait too?
Yes, Elwood, certainly.
Come on in, Harvey. Sit down. Vita wants to talk to us. She said it was important. I think she wants to congratulate us on the impression we made at her party. Oh, Jane Austen.
Mrs. O.R. Simmons, 343 Temple Drive. Is that right?
Yes, we were born and raised there. It's old, but we love it. It's our home.
And you wish to enter your brother here at the sanitarium for treatment. Your brother's name?
It's... Oh,
Mrs. Simmons, what's your brother's name?
I'm sorry. This hasn't been easy for us. But I have to keep holding my head up and going on just the same. That's what I keep telling Myrtle May, and that's what Myrtle May keeps telling me. She's heartbroken about her Uncle Elwood. Elwood P. Dowd. That's it.
Elwood P. Dowd. His age?
47. The 24th of last April. He's a Taurus, like the bull. I'm a Leo, and Myrtle's on a cusp.
47. Is he married?
No, Elwood never married. He always stayed home with Mother. He loved his home.
And you have him with you now?
Yes, down in a taxi cab down in the driveway. I gave the driver a dollar to watch him, but I couldn't tell him why. You can't tell these things to perfect strangers.
Mr. Wilson, would you step down to a taxi in the driveway and ask a Mr. Dowd if he would be good enough to step up to room 24, South Wing G?
Ask him?
This is his sister, Mrs. Simmons.
Oh, certainly. I'd be glad to escort him.
Thank you.
The rates here, Mrs. Simmons. You'll see them printed on this card.
That will all be taken care of by my mother's estate, the late Marcella Penny Dowd. Judge Gaffney is our attorney.
Now I'll see if Dr. Sanderson can see you now.
Dr. Sanderson, I want to see Dr. Chumley himself.
Oh, Mrs. Simmons, Dr. Sanderson sees all of the patients. Dr. Chumley sees no one.
He's still the head of this institution, isn't he? He's still a psychiatrist, isn't he?
Still a psychiatrist? Dr. Chumley is more than that. He is a psychiatrist with a national reputation. When people have mental breakdowns, they at once think of Dr. Chumley.
That's his office, isn't it? Well, you march right in there and tell him that I want to see him. If he knows he's out here, then he'll come out.
I wouldn't dare disturb him, Mrs. Simmons. I would be discharged if I did.
Well, I refuse to be put on anybody's second fiddle.
Dr. Sanderson is nobody's second fiddle. He's young, of course, and hasn't been out of medical school very long. Dr. Chumley tried out 12 and kept Dr. Sanderson. He's really wonderful. To the patients.
Very well. Tell him I'm here.
Right away.
Vita, isn't this wonderful?
Oh,
Mrs. Simmons?
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you come in. You're Dr. Sanderson?
Yes. Will you be seated, please?
Thank you. I hope you don't think I'm jumpy like that all the time.
Of course not. Miss Kelly tells me you're concerned about your brother. Dowd, is it? Elwood P. Dowd?
Yes. This isn't easy for me, Doctor.
Naturally. These things aren't easy for the families of patients. I understand.
It's what Elwood's doing to himself, Doctor. That's the thing. Myrtle May has a right to nice friends. She's young and has her whole life before her. That's my daughter.
Your daughter. How long has it been since you began to notice any peculiarity in your brother's actions?
Right away when Mother died and we moved home from Des Moines to live with Elwood. I could see that he...
That he what? Take your time, Mrs. Simmons. Don't strain. Let it come. I'll wait for it.
Doctor, everything I say to you is confidential, right?
That's understood.
Because it's a slap in the face to the whole community, the way Elwood's acting now.
I am not a gossip, Mrs. Simmons. I am a psychiatrist.
Well, for one thing, he drinks.
To excess?
To excess? Well, wouldn't you call it excess when a man never lets a day go by without stepping into one of those cheap taverns, hanging around with riffraff and people you never heard of, inviting them into your house, playing cards with them, giving them food and money? And here I am, trying to get Myrtle May started with a nice group of young people. If that isn't excess, I'm sure I don't know what excess is.
Well, I didn't doubt your statement, Mrs. Simmons. I merely asked if your brother drinks.
Well, yes, definitely Elwood drinks, and I want him committed out here permanently, because I cannot stand another day of that Harvey. Myrtle May and I have to set a place at the table for Harvey. We have to move over on the sofa to make room for Harvey. We have to answer the telephone when Elwood calls and asks for Harvey. Then, at the party this afternoon with Mrs. Chauvenet there, we didn't even know anything about Elwood until we came here. Now, Doctor, don't you think it would have been a little bit kinder of Mother to have written and told us about Harvey? Be honest now, don't you?
I really couldn't
Well, I
answer that.
can. Yes, it certainly would have.
This person you call Harvey, Who is he?
He's a rabbit.
Perhaps, but just who is he? Some companion? Someone your brother has picked up in one of these bars of whom you disapprove?
Doctor, I've been telling you, Harvey is a rabbit. A big white rabbit. 6 feet tall, or is it 6 feet and a half? God knows I ought to know by now. He's been around the house long enough.
Mrs. Simmons.
Doctor, do I have to keep repeating myself? My brother insists that his closest friend is a rabbit. His name is Harvey. He lives with us at our house. Him and Elwood do everything together. He buys them theater tickets, railroad tickets for the both of them. As I've been telling Myrtle May, if your uncle was so lonesome that he had to bring something home, why couldn't he bring something home human? He has me, doesn't he? He has Myrtle May, doesn't he? Doctor, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody else before. Sometimes I see that big white rabbit myself. Now isn't that crazy? I've never even told that to Myrtle May.
Mrs. Simmons.
And what's even crazier, he's every bit as big as Elwood says he is. Now don't tell that to anybody, Doctor. I'm ashamed of it.
I can see that you've been under a great amount of stress recently.
Yes, I certainly have.
Grief over your mother's death has depressed you considerably.
Nobody knows how much.
Been losing sleep?
Who could sleep with all of that going on?
Short-tempered over trifles?
You try living with those two and see how your temper holds up.
Loss of appetite?
Who could eat with Elwood and a big white rabbit? Well, I'm finished with it. I'll sell the house and be appointed conservator of Elwood's estate. It's just too much, Doctor. I just can't stand it.
Of course, Mrs. Simmons. Of course it is. You're tired.
Yes, I am.
You've been worrying a great deal.
I certainly have.
And now I'm going to help you.
Oh, Doctor.
Just sit there quietly. I'll be right back.
Well, I'll just go down to the cab and get some of Elwood's things.
Why didn't anybody answer the buzzer?
I didn't hear you, Doctor.
I rang and rang. Mrs. Simmons, Sound the gong, Wilson! That poor woman must not leave these grounds.
She's made with a getaway, hunt dog.
Her condition is serious. Go after her. Main gate. Henry. Dr. Sanderson. Allow no one out of the main gate. We're looking for a patient.
I can't believe it.
Should have never let her get away. But nobody answered the buzzer.
Wilson wasn't south, Doctor.
What have we available, Miss Kelly?
Number 13 Upper West Star is ready, Doctor.
Have her taken there immediately, and I will prescribe preliminary treatment. I must contact her brother. Dowd is his name. Elwood P. Dowd. Get him on the telephone for me, will you please, Miss Kelly?
But, Doctor, I didn't know it was the brother who needed treatment. She said it was for her brother.
Of course she did. That's the oldest dodge in the world. Always used by a cunning type of psychopath. She apparently knew that her brother was about to commit her, so she came out to discredit him. Get him on the telephone, please.
But I thought the brother was all right, so I had Wilson take Mr. Dowd up to number 13 Upper West Art. He's there now.
You had Wilson take the brother in? No, Gags, please, Kelly, tell me you're not serious.
Oh, I did, Doctor, I did. Oh, Doctor, I'm terribly sorry.
Well, then, if you're sorry, that just fixes everything.
Mrs. Dumpy, will you please unlock the door to number 24 and give Mr. Dowd his clothes and...
Ask him to step down to the office right away.
Ask him to step down to the office right away. There's been a terrible mistake, and Dr. Sanderson wants to explain.
Explain? Apologize!
Thank heaven they put him in a hydro tub yet. She'll let him out.
Beautiful. And dumb, too. It's almost too good to be true.
Doctor, I feel terrible. Judge Gaffney called, and she said Mrs. Sims and her brother would be out here, and... when they came in here, we don't have to be sarcastic.
Oh, don't I? Stop worrying, we'll squirm out of it some way.
Where are you going?
I've got to tell the chief about it, Kelly. He may want to handle this himself.
He'll be furious. I know he will. He'll die, and then he'll terminate me.
The responsibility is all mine, Kelly.
Oh no, Doctor. Tell him it was all my fault.
I never mention your name, except in my sleep.
But this man down.
Don't let him get away. I'll be right back.
But what shall I say to him? What shall I do? He'll be furious.
Look, Kelly, he'll probably be fit to be tied, but he's a man, isn't he?
I guess so. His name is Mr.
Just go into your old routine. You know, the eyes, the swish, the works. I'm immune, but I've seen it work with some people, some of the patients out here. Keep them here, Kelly, as long as even if you have to do a strip tease.
Well, of all that, oh, you're wonderful, Dr. Sanderson. You're just about the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, but how about giving me a lift here all the same?
What?
With that Simmons dame.
Did you catch her?
Slick as a whistle. She comes walking along a path, humming a little tune. I jump out from behind a tree and I says, "Sister, there's a man that wants to see you." You should have heard her yell. She's wacky, all right.
Take her to number 13 Upper West R.
She's there now. I brought her in through the diet kitchen. She was flailing and screaming like hell. I'll hold her up there if you'll come and get her clothes off for me.
Just a minute, Wilson. Dr. Sanderson asked me to stay here until her brother comes in.
We'll make it snappy.
You're Mr. Dowd?
Elwood P.
I'm Miss Kelly.
Let me give you one of my cards. If you should need to call me at this number. Don't call me at that one. That's the old one.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and if you lose it, don't worry. I have plenty more.
Won't you please have a chair, Mr. Dowd?
I'll have to. Allow me.
Dr. Sanderson is very anxious to see you. He'll be here in a minute. Won't you please be seated?
After you, my dear.
Oh, I really can't thank you. You mustn't mind me. I'm in and out all the time. Please be seated.
After you.
Can I get you a magazine to look at?
I would much rather look at you, Miss Kelly. You're quite lovely.
Oh, well, thank you. Some people don't seem to think so.
Some people are blind. That is often brought to my attention. Now, I would like to introduce
Mr. Dowd?
Elwood P. Let me give you one of my cards if you should need
Mr.
to...
Dowd, I am Dr. Lyman Sanderson, Dr. Trumley's assistant out here.
I'm happy to know that. How are you, Doctor?
Well, that's going to depend on you, I'm afraid. Please, won't you be seated? Because first I want to say that, what was it? You know, I can't just remember. Oh, yes, you've met Miss Kelly, haven't you, Mr. Dowd?
I have had that pleasure. And I would like to introduce a very dear friend of mine.
And later on, we'd be glad to. Right now, pardon me. Right now, we would like to just say, welcome. Would you like to take a seat?
After Miss Kelly,
Sit down, Kelly. Is that chair quite comfortable, Mr. Dowd?
oh yes, would you care to try it?
No, thank you. That's quite all right. Is it too warm in here for you, Mr. Dowd? Would you like me to open a window?
Mr. Dowd, Dr. Sanderson would like to know if he should open a window.
That is entirely up to him. I wouldn't presume to live his life for him.
Now then, Mr. Dowd, I could see that you're not the type of person to be taken in by any high-flown phrases or beating about the bush.
Is that so, Doctor?
Yes. You have us at a disadvantage here. You know it. We know it. Let's just lay the cards on the table.
That certainly appeals to me, Doctor.
Easiest way in the long run. People are people no matter where you go.
That is very often the case.
And being human are therefore liable to mistakes. Miss Kelly and I have made a mistake here this afternoon, Mr. Dowd, and would like to explain it to you.
It wasn't Dr. Sanderson's fault, Mr. Dowd. It was mine.
A human failing, as I said.
I find it very interesting, nevertheless. That you and Miss Kelly here. This afternoon, you say?
We do hope you will understand.
Oh, yes. Yes. These things are often the basis of a long and warm friendship.
The responsibility is, of course, mine, not hers.
Your attitude may be old-fashioned, Doctor, but I like it.
Now, if I had seen your sister first, well, that would have just been an entirely different story.
Now, there you surprise me. I think the world and all of Vita, but I figured she had seen her day.
Well, you must not bring any blame onto her. She is a very sick woman. Came in here insisting you were in need of treatment. That's perfectly ridiculous.
Vita shouldn't worry about me. I get along fine.
Exactly. But your sister's reaction to the whole matter was completely ridiculous. And, your sister had already talked to Miss Kelly, and there was a call from your judge, Lawyer Gaffney.
Yes, I know her. Know her husband, too. Nice people.
Is there something I can get for you, Dowd?
What did you have in mind?
Your sister was extremely nervous and plunged right away into a heated tirade on your drinking.
That was Vita.
She became hysterical.
I tell Vita not to worry about that. I'll take care of that.
Exactly. Oh, and I suppose you take a drink now and then.
Why, yes. In fact, Doctor, I would like one right now.
As a matter of fact, so would I. But the way your sister acted this afternoon was entirely ridiculous. Does your sister drink, Mr. Dowd?
Oh, no, I don't believe Vita has ever taken a drink.
Well, I'm going to surprise you. I think she has, and does, constantly.
I am certainly surprised.
But it's not her alcoholism that's going to be the basis of my diagnosis for her case. It's much more serious than that. It was when she began talking so emotionally about this big white rabbit, Harvey. Yes, I believe she called him Harvey.
Harvey is his name.
She claimed you were persecuting her with this Harvey.
Oh, no, Doctor. I haven't been persecuting her with Harvey. Vita shouldn't feel that way. And now, Doctor, before we go any further, I must insist
Let me make my point first, Mr. Dowd. My apologies. This trouble of your sister's did not spring up overnight. Her condition stems from trauma.
From what?
From trauma, spelled Trauma. It means shock. There's nothing unusual about it. There is the birth trauma, the shock to the act of being born.
That's the one we never get over.
You have a nice sense of humor, hasn't he, Miss Kelly?
Oh, yes, Doctor.
May I say the same about both of you?
To sum it all up, your sister's condition is very serious, but I can help her. However, she must remain out here temporarily.
I've always wanted Vita to have everything she needs.
Exactly.
But I only want her to stay out here if that's what she wants.
Of course. Did Wilson get what he went after, Miss Kelly?
Yes, Doctor.
And what was Mrs. Simmons' reaction?
Not unusual, Doctor.
Mr. Dowd, if this were an ordinary delusion, a reflection on the memory picture, in other words, if your sister had been seeing something that she had seen once before, that would be one thing. but it stands to reason that nobody has ever seen a white rabbit 6 feet tall.
Not very often, Doctor.
I like you, Dowd.
I like you too. And Miss Kelly. I like her too.
So she must be committed out here temporarily. Under these circumstances, I would commit my own grandmother.
Does your grandmother drink too?
It's just an expression. Now, if you'll sign these temporary commitment papers as next of kin, just a formality.
I believe you'd better let Vita do that, Doctor. She does all the signing and managing for the family. She's good at it.
We can't disturb her now.
Perhaps I'd better talk it over with Judge Gaffney.
You can explain it all to her later. Tell her I advised it. Until then, I'll tell you what you might like to do.
What might I like to do, Doctor? I'm interested.
You see, it's a horrible cough. You see, we don't usually do this, but just to make sure that in your mind that your sister's in good hands, why don't you take a look around here? I'll make you out a full visitor's pass. If you go through that door there and make a right just beyond the stairway, you'll find the occupational therapy room. And just beyond that, you'll find the conservatory, the library, and the diet kitchen.
For Vita's sake, I believe I'd better do that, Doctor.
Very well, then. It's been a pleasure having this talk with you.
I've enjoyed it too, meaning you and Miss Kelly.
And I must say that for a layman, you show an unusually acute perception into psychiatric problems.
Is that a fact? I never thought I knew anything about it. Nobody does, do you think?
Well, you don't find the good psychiatrist under every bush.
You have to pick the right bush. Since we all seem to be getting along so well, I'd like to invite you now down to Charlie's to have a drink.
Well, we're pretty busy around here. Some other time we'd be glad to.
When? When would you be glad to?
I can't say right now. Miss Kelly and I have to get on upstairs. We don't get off till 10 o'clock at night.
We will go downtown to Charlie's at 10 o'clock tonight.
Well,
And you, Miss Kelly?
Dr. Chumley doesn't approve of members of the staff fraternizing, but since you've been so understanding, perhaps we could manage it.
I'll pick you up in a cab at 10 o'clock tonight, and the four of us will have a wonderful evening. I would like to introduce you to a good friend of mine, but you said later on, so later on it will be. Goodbye, Doctor.
Phew, now I can breathe again.
Boy, that was a close shave, all right. That man has pride. What he has to be proud of, I don't know, but it worked up to that pride. You can get to almost anybody if you want to. Now, I must go check in on that Simmons woman.
Dr. Sanderson, you say you can get to almost anybody if you want to. How can you do that?
It takes years of study, Kelly, years of specialized training. There's just one thing I don't like about this Dowd business.
Well, what's that?
Having to make this date with him. I mean, sure, the man has left here a good friend and booster to this sanitarium, but I guess I'll have to go with him tonight. But you don't have to go.
Oh,
No point in it. I'll just go in, have a drink with him, pat him on the back, and leave.
I didn't intend to go anyway. The idea bored me stiff. I wouldn't go if I never went anywhere again. I wouldn't go if my life depended on it.
What are you getting so emotional about, Kelly?
He may be a peculiar man with funny clothes, but he knows how to act. His manners were perfect.
I saw you giving him that doll puss stare. I didn't miss that.
He wouldn't sit down till I sat down. He told me I was lovely and called me dear. I'd go have a drink with him if you weren't going.
Of course you would. And look at him. All he does is hang around in bars. He doesn't work. All of that corny bowing and getting up out of his seat every time a woman makes a move. Why, he's as outdated as a cast iron deer.
Now let me tell you something, you.
Dr. Sanderson, Miss Kelly,
Yes,
Yes,
doctor?
tell the gardener to prune more carefully around my prized dahlias out by the main road. They'll be ready for cutting next week. Oh, and the situation with the woman with the big white rabbit, has it been smoothed over?
I talked to her brother this afternoon, doctor, and he seemed quite reasonable.
Well, I have had many patients out here who saw animals. I've never before had a patient who had an animal that large.
Yet, doctor. She called him Harvey.
Harvey. That's a strange name for an animal of any kind. Harvey is a man's name. I've known many men in my day named Harvey, but never have I seen an animal with such a name as that. The case has an interesting phase, Doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Now, I'll go upstairs with you and look in on this woman. It may be that we can use my Formula 977 on her. I'll give you my advice of prescribing the treatment, Doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
And now, may I ask, what's that hat and coat doing here? Whose is it?
I don't know. Do you know, Miss Kelly? Was it Doubt's?
He had his hat on. It must be one of the relatives of the patients.
Hand me the hat. There may be some kind of identification here. What's this? 2 holes cut in the crown of the hat. See?
That's strange.
Some new fad. Here, put them away. Hang them up. Get them out of here.
Oh, hello, Dr. Chumley.
Oh, there you are.
How is every little old thing?
Fair. Thank you, Wilson. Fair.
Good. All right, well, listen. Somebody's gonna have to help me with that Simmons dame. Order a restraining jacket or something. She's crazy. Forget me, did you? Well, I got her corset off all by myself.
We're going up to look at this woman right now, Wilson.
She's in a hydro tub. Oh, God. I left the water running on her.
Willie, remember your promise. Hello, Dr. Sanderson. Willie, you haven't forgotten Dr. McClure's cocktail party. We promised them faithfully.
That's right. I have to go upstairs and look in on a patient right now. Be down shortly.
Give a little quick diagnosis, Willie. We don't want to be late to the party. I'm dying to see the inside of that house. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mrs. Chumley, Dr. Chumley's wife.
Dowd is the name. Elwood P. Let me give you one of my cards. You should need to call me at that number. Don't call me at that number. That's the old one.
Thank you. Is there something I can do for you?
Oh, what did you have in mind?
Well, you seem to be looking for someone.
Oh, why, yes, I am.
Who would you be looking for?
I'm looking for Harvey.
Harvey? Is he a patient here?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
Does he work here?
Oh, no. He's what you might call my best friend. He's also a puka.
Where was he when you last saw him?
In that chair there, with his hat and coat, with him.
There doesn't seem to be a hat or coat here now. Perhaps he's left?
Apparently, I don't see him anywhere.
What was that word you just said? Puka?
Yes, that's it.
Is that something new?
Oh, no, as I understand it, that's something very old.
Oh, really? I never happened here before.
Neither had I until I met Harvey. You know, I hope you do get the chance to meet Harvey. He would be quite taken with you.
Oh, really? That's very nice of you to say so, I'm sure.
Not at all. If Harvey likes someone, he expresses himself quite definitely. If Harvey isn't particularly interested, he just sits there like an empty chair or empty space on the floor. Harvey he takes his time making his mind up about people. Choosy, you see.
Well, that's not such a bad way to be in this day and age.
Harvey is fond of my sister Vida. That is because Harvey is fond of me, and Vida and I come from the same family. Now, you'd think that feeling would be mutual, wouldn't you? But Vida doesn't seem to care for Harvey. That's a shame, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Dow. I gave up a long time ago expecting my family to taking a liking to my friends. It's useless.
But we must keep on trying.
There's no harm in trying, I suppose.
Because if Harvey has said to me once, he has said to me 1,000,000 times, Mr. Dowd, I would do anything for you. Mrs. Chumley,
Yes.
did you know that Mrs. McElhaney's Aunt Rose is going to drop in on her unexpectedly tonight from Cleveland?
Why,
No, I didn't.
That puts both of you in the same boat, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know anybody by the name Mrs.
Mrs. McElhaney lives next door to us. Wonderful woman. That is an interesting little news item, and you are perfectly free to pass it around.
Well,
And would you care to come down with me now and have a drink?
Thank you very much, but I'm waiting for Dr. Chumley, and if he were to come down here and find me gone, he'd be liable to raise... he would be irritated.
We wouldn't want that, would we? Some other time, then.
I'll tell you what I'll do, however.
What will you do, however? I'm interested.
If your friend comes in while I'm still here, I'd be glad to give him a message for you.
Would you do that? I'd certainly appreciate that.
No trouble at all. I'll just write it down on the back of this. What would you like me to tell him if he comes in while I'm still?
Ask him to meet me downtown.
Meet Mr. Dow downtown. Any particular place downtown?
He knows where. Harvey knows this town like a book.
Harvey. You know where. Harvey what?
Just Harvey.
I'll tell you what.
What?
Doctor and I are headed right downtown to 12th and Montview. Dr. McClure's having a cocktail party.
Cocktail party at 12th and Montview.
We're headed there in a few minutes. We could give your friend a lift.
I hate to impose on you, but I would certainly appreciate that.
No trouble at all. Dr. McClure's having this party for his sister from Wichita.
I didn't know Dr. McClure had a sister from Wichita.
You know Dr. McClure?
No.
But
You're quite sure you don't have time with me now to come down?
I really couldn't, but thank you just the same.
Some other time, then.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, so do I.
Good night, my dear. Oh, you can't miss Harvey. He's very tall. Like this.
That Simmons woman was uncooperative. She refused to admit to me that she has this big white rabbit. Insists it's her brother. Here, give her 2 of these at 9, another at 10 if she continues to be so restless, another trip to the hydro tub at 8, and another in the morning at 7. Then we'll see if she won't cooperate with us tomorrow, won't we, Doctor?
Yes, Doctor.
Now, you know where to call if you need me. Ready, Pet?
Yes, Willie. And oh, Willie,
Yes?
there was a man in here. A man named, Dowd. Elwood P. Dowd.
That's Mrs. Simmons' brother, Doctor. I told him he could look around here if he wanted to.
She mustn't see anyone tonight. Not anyone at all. Tell him that.
Well, he wasn't looking for her. He was looking for someone. Some friend of his.
Who could that be, Doctor?
I don't know, Doctor.
He said it was someone he came out here with this afternoon.
There wasn't anybody with Mr. Dowd when you saw him this afternoon, was there, Miss Kelly?
No, doctor, not when I saw him.
Well, he said there was. He said he last saw his friend sitting in that chair there with his hat and coat. He seemed quite disappointed.
Dr. Sanderson?
I told him that if we located his friend, we could give him a lift into town. He could ride in the back seat. Was that all right, Willie?
Of course, of course.
Oh, here's his friend's name. His friend's name was Harvey. Harvey! He didn't give me his last name. He mentioned something else about him, something about a puka, but I didn't quite get that.
Harvey!
He said his friend was very tall. Well, why are you looking like that, Willie? This man was very nice, polite man, and he merely asked if we could give his friend a lift into town. If we can't do a favor for someone, then why are we living?
Where did he go, Mrs. Chumley?
Get me that hat. By George, we'll get to the bottom of this.
I don't know where he went, just a second ago.
Main gate. Henry, Dr. Sanderson.
Gaffney. Judge Gaffney.
Henry, did a man in a brown suit go out the gate a minute ago? He did? He's gone?
Yes, Judge Gaffney. This is Dr. William Chumley, the psychiatrist. I'm just calling to make a routine checkup on the spelling of a name before entering it into our records. Yes, Judge, you called out here this afternoon about having one of your clients committed. Just how's that name spelled? With a W, not a U. Mr. Elwood P. Dowd. Thank you, Judge. Dr. Sanderson, your name is Sanderson.
Yes, doctor.
You know that much, do you? You went to medical school, you specialized in the field of psychiatry, you graduated, you went forth.
Yes, doctor.
Perhaps they neglected to tell you that a rabbit has large pointed ears, and that a hat for a rabbit would need to be perforated to make room for those ears.
Dowd seemed reasonable enough for that afternoon,
Doctor, the function of a psychiatrist is to tell the difference between those who are reasonable and those who merely talk and act reasonably. Do you know what you've done to me?
Well,
You don't answer, I'll tell you. You've permitted a psychopathic case just wander off these grounds with an overgrown white rabbit. You've subjected me, a psychiatrist, to the humiliation of having to call, of all things, a lawyer to find out who came out here to be committed and who came out here to commit. Just a minute. Wilson, I want you.
Yes, doctor.
Now I'll have to do something I haven't had to do in 15 years. I'll have to go out after this patient, Elwood P. Dowd, and bring him back. And when I do bring him back, your connection with this institute is ended as of that moment. Wilson, get the car.
Yes, doctor.
Betty, call the McClures and say we can't make it. Miss Kelly, come upstairs and we'll get this woman out of the tub.
Yes, doctor.
I'll have to tell the cook we'll be home for dinner. She'll be furious. Wilson,
Yes, ma'am.
what is a puka?
A what?
A puka.
Well, you can search me, Mrs. Chumley.
I wonder if it's in the encyclopedia here. They have everything. I wonder if it's a lodge or what it is. Oh, I don't dare to stop to do this now. If Doctor were to come down and find me still here, he'll raise, oh dear.
P-O-O-K-A. Puka, puka, puka. She get that encyclopedia? This is P. Puka. Spelled P-O-O-K-A, from old Celtic mythology, a fairy spirit in animal form. The puka is very large and appears here and there, now and then, to this one and that one at his own caprice. The puka is very fond of rum pots, crackpots, and how are you, Mr. Wilson? How are you, Mr. Wilson? Well, who in the encyclopedia wants to know? Ah, to hell with it.
Yes, that's right. The stairs at the end of the hall. They go right up to the 3rd floor. I'll be with you in just a moment. Judge Gaffney.
Well, where is she?
Where's who? Whom do you mean, Judge Gaffney? Sit down, won't you?
I mean your mother. Where's Vita Louise?
Judge Gaffney, you know where she is. She went out to the sanitarium.
I know that, but why did she call me with a lot of hysteria? Couldn't even get what she was saying. Carrying on something fierce.
Mother carrying on? What about?
I don't know, she was hysterical.
That's strange. All she had to do was take him out there and put him in. Did you find it? I'll be right up. They found it.
Who? Found what? What are you talking about?
When Mother left the house, I went to the real estate office to put the house on the market, and what do you think I found there?
I'm not a quiz kid.
Well, I found a man there who's looking to buy old houses just like these and cut up and turn into buffet apartments. He's going through it now.
Now, see here, Myrtle May. This house does not belong to you. It belongs to your Uncle Elwood.
But now that Uncle Elwood's locked up, Mother controls the property, doesn't she?
Where is your mother? Where's Vita Louise?
Judge Gaffney. She went to Chumley's Rest to tell them about Harvey and put Uncle Elwood in.
Why was I called at the club when I was in the middle of the game? Tell me to meet her here about something important.
I don't know. I simply do not know. Have you got the deed to this house?
Well, certainly. It's in my safe. Myrtle, I feel awful about this thing of locking Elwood up.
Mother and I will be able to take a long trip now, out to Pasadena.
I always liked that boy. He could have done anything, been anything, made a place for himself in this community.
And all he did was get a big rabbit.
He had everything. Brains, personality, looks. Men liked him, women liked him. I liked him.
Are you telling me that once Uncle Elwood was like other men, that women actually liked him? I mean, in that way?
Oh, not since he started running around with that big rabbit. Once that mailbox of your grandmother's was filled with little blue scented envelopes.
I can't believe it.
Of course, there was always something different about Elwood.
I don't doubt that.
He was always so calm about any sudden change in plans. I used to admire it. I should have been suspicious. Take your average man looking up and seeing a big white rabbit, he'd do something about it. But not Elwood. He took that calmly too.
You don't dream how far overboard he's gone on this rabbit.
Oh, yes, I do. He's had that rabbit in my office many's a time. I'm old, but I don't miss much. What's that noise?
The prospective buyer on the 3rd floor. Mother, look, Judge!
Vita Louise! What's wrong, sweetie?
I never thought I'd see either of you again. Take a hold of her, Judge. She looks like she's gonna faint. You're gonna be all right, Mother. You're gonna be perfectly all right.
Steady, Vita Louise, steady.
Let me sit down. Only give me some place where I can sit down.
Well, don't rush her, Myrtle May. Ease her in.
It's just the gas bill.
Oh, get her some tea, Myrtle May. Do you want some tea, Vita Louise?
Miss Johnson.
Yes, ma'am?
Get Mother some tea.
Yes, ma'am.
Get her coat off, Judge.
Get her coat off, Myrtle May.
Leave me alone! Let me be! Let me get my breath.
Let her get her breath, Judge.
Leave me be, and then let me get upstairs to my own bed where I can let go.
What happened to you, Mother?
Brooke, I want you to sue them. They put me in and let Elwood out.
What's this? Mother!
Just look at my hair.
What happened? What did you say? What did you do? You must have done something.
I didn't do one thing. I simply told them about Elwood and Harvey.
Then how could it happen to you? I don't understand it.
I told them about Elwood, and then I went down to the cab to get some of Elwood's things. As I was walking along the path, this awful man stepped out. He was a white slaver. I know he was. He had on one of those white suits. That's how they advertise.
Oh, man. What did he do, Mother?
What did he do? He took me upstairs and then
Go on, Vita Louise. Go on, sweetie.
Poor Mother. Was he a young man?
Oh, Myrtle May. Perhaps you better leave the room.
Now? I should say not. Go on, Mother.
he took me upstairs. Then he tore my clothes off.
Oh, did you hear that, Judge? Go on, Mother.
By God, I'll sue them for this.
And then he sat me down in a tub of water.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I always thought that what you were showed on your face. Don't you believe it, Judge? Don't you believe it, Myrtle May? This man took a hold of me like I was a woman of the streets. But I fought. I always said if a man jumped at me, I'd fight. Haven't I always said that, Myrtle May?
She's always said that, Judge. That's what she always told me to do.
And then he hustled me into that sanitarium and began treating me like I was
what?
a crazy woman. But he did that just for spite.
Well, I'll be damned.
And then those doctors came upstairs and they began asking me a lot of questions, all about sex urges and all that filthy stuff. That place ought to be cleaned up, Brooke. I want the authorities to clean it up.
This stinks to high heaven, Vita Louise. By God, it stinks.
Tell me, Judge, is that all those doctors do at places like that? Think about sex?
Well, I wouldn't know.
Because if it is, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. It's all in their head anyways. Why don't they get out and go for long walks in the fresh air? Judge Gaffney walked everywhere for years, didn't you, Judge?
Let me take some notes on this. You said these doctors come up to talk to you. This Dr. Chumley and what was the other doctor's name?
Sanderson. But don't you believe a word he says. He's a liar. Close set eyes. They're always liars. Besides, I told him something in the strictest confidence, and he blabbed it.
What did you tell him, Mother?
Oh, what difference does it make? You can't trust anybody.
Vita, anything you told us, Dr. Sanderson, you can tell us. This is your daughter, and I'm your lawyer.
I know which is which. I don't want to talk about it. I want to sue them, and I want to get in my own bed.
But, Mother, this is the important thing anyway. Where is Uncle Elwood?
I should have known better than to try to do anything about him. Something protects him. That awful puka.
Where is Uncle Elwood? Answer
How
me.
should I know? They let him go. They're not interested in men at places like that. Don't act so naive, Myrtle May. What's that noise?
I found a buyer for the house.
What?
Look, Mother, no matter what happened out there, we've still got to lock Uncle Elwood up.
I don't know where he is. The next time you take him, Judge. Oh, wait till Elwood hears about this. He won't stand for it. Judge, don't forget to sue them. Myrtle May, all I hope is that never, as long as you live, a man pulls the clothes off of you and dumps you down in a tub of water.
Now see, Mother muffed everything. No matter what happened out there, Uncle Elwood is still wandering around with Harvey.
The thing for me to do is take some more notes.
It's all Uncle Elwood's fault. He found out what Mother was up to, and he had her put in. Then he ran.
Oh, don't talk like that. Your Uncle Elwood thinks the world and all of your mother. Ever since he was a little boy, he wanted to share everything he had with him.
I'm not giving up. We'll get detectives. We'll find him. And besides, you'd better save some of that sympathy for Mother and I. You don't realize what we have to put up with. Wait till you see something Uncle Elwood brought home about 6 months ago, and we hid it out in the garage. Wait till I show you.
I'll wait.
Okay, is he here?
What? What's this?
That crackpot with the rabbit, is he here?
No, and who, may I ask, are you?
Not here, Doctor. Dr. Chumley's coming in anyway. What's your name?
Well. Chumley, I've got something to say to him.
No. What's your name? Let's have it.
Judge Gaffney.
Reason I asked is, Dr. Chumley likes to know who he's talking to.
Well, Chumley.
Good evening, Judge. Let's not waste time. Has he been here?
Who? Elwood. No, but see here, Doctor.
Sure he ain't been here? He's wise. He's hiding now. It'll be an awful job to smoke him out.
It'll be more difficult, but I'll do it. They're sly. They're cunning. But I get them. I always get them. Have you got the list of places we've been, Wilson?
Right here, Doctor.
Read it.
All right. We've been to 17 bars. We've been to Gina's place, Courtney's place, Hannah's place, the O'Rourke's Pub, Union Station, the 9th Avenue Firehouse, the 10th, 11th, 12th Avenue Firehouses, just to be sure. The grain elevator. Say, why does this guy hang around a grain elevator?
The foreman is a friend of his. Elwood has many friends, many places.
I've stopped by here to ask Mrs. Simmons if she has any other suggestions as to where we might look for him.
Dr. Chumley, I must inform you that Mrs. Simmons has called upon me to file suit against you.
What?
About this business this afternoon at the sanitarium.
A suit?
And while we're on that subject,
Jeez, that's pretty, ain't it, Doctor? After us dragging your tail all over town trying to find that guy.
Listen, Judge, what happened this afternoon was an unfortunate mistake, and I've discharged my assistant who made it, and I am prepared to take on this case personally. It interests me, and my interest in a case is something no amount of money can buy. You can ask any of them.
Yeah, but see here, this business is
Water
afternoon.
under the dam. This is the way I see this thing. Here's how I see it. The important item now is to get that man and bring him back to the sanitarium where he belongs.
That's right, Judge. That's just what I think.
Let me introduce Miss Myrtle May Simmons, Mrs. Simmons' daughter, Mr. Dowd's niece.
How do you do, Dr. Chumley?
How do you do, Miss Simmons?
Hello, Myrtle.
Now, let me talk to Mrs. Simmons.
Mother won't come in. I know she won't. You try to get her to come in, Judge.
Oh, see here, Myrtle May. Your mother was manhandled. God knows what she was. The man's approach was not professional. It was personal.
Wilson, this is a serious charge.
Doctor, I have been with you for 10 years. Are you seriously gonna believe this? What's your name again?
Gaffney. Judge Brooke Gaffney.
This old blister Gaffney.
Wilson.
Over me. Me and a dame who sees a rabbit.
Oh, it's not Mrs. Simmons who sees the rabbit, it's her brother.
Yes, it's Uncle Elwood.
Will you come with me, Doctor?
Yes, all right, Judge. Wilson, I have a situation here. Wait for me.
Yeah, okay, Doctor. So, your name's Myrtle May.
What? Oh, yes.
You know, if we grab your uncle, you're liable to be coming around on visiting days.
Oh, I don't really.
And you know, if you do, I'll be there.
You will?
And you know, if you don't see me right away, wait for me. I'll show you.
You will?
And you know another thing?
What?
Dr. Chumley noticed it right away. He don't miss a trip. You know, you not only got a nice build, but kid, you got something else.
What?
You got the screwiest uncle ever stuck his puss inside our nut house.
Hello, Chumley's Rest. Is Dr. Chumley there? Oh, it's Mrs. Chumley. This is Elwood P. Dowd speaking. How are you tonight? Tell me, Mrs. Chumley, were you able to find Harvey? Oh, don't worry about it. I'll find him. Oh, I'm sorry I missed you at the McClure cocktail party. There were many nice people, and I left quite a few of my cards. I waited until you phoned and said you couldn't come because a patient had escaped. Where am I? I'm here, but I must be leaving right away. I must find Harvey. Well, goodbye, Mrs. Chumley. My regards to you and anybody else you may run into. Goodbye, my dear. Ah, there it is.
Doctor, you might as well go home and wait. I'm suing you for $50,000, and that's fine. Hello? Yes.
Mrs. Simmons, this picture over your mantel,
That portrait happens to be the pride of this house.
who painted it?
Oh, I don't know. Some man. He was around here for the sittings. Then we paid him, and he left. Hello? Yes, no. This is Dexter 1567.
Well, I suppose if you have the money to pay people, you can persuade them to do anything.
Doctor, do you remember what I said to you when you pulled me out of that tub at your place?
You expressed yourself.
I said, Doctor, this is a belated civility. Isn't that what I said?
You said something of the sort. I can't quite remember the words.
You brought this up? You might as well learn something from it. I took a course in art this last winter. The difference between a fine oil painting and a mechanical thing, such as a photograph, is simply this. A photograph shows only the reality. A painting shows not only the reality, but the dreams behind it. It's our dreams that keep us going, that separate us from the beasts. I wouldn't want to live if I thought life was all just eating and sleeping and taking your clothes off, well, putting them on again.
There. Everything's all right. Don't get excited. Now, what's the matter?
Doctor, that is not my mother!
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, Dr. Elwood's been here. He's been here.
Better be quiet. I'll take it. Hello? Yes. Who's calling? Mrs. Simmons, he's here. It's your brother.
Oh, let me take it.
Don't tell him I'm here. Be casual.
Hello. Yes, Elwood. Where are you? Where? He wants to know if Harvey is here.
Tell him Harvey is here.
But he isn't.
Tell him. That might bring him over to us. Humor him. We have to humor them.
Hello. Yes, Elwood. Harvey's here. Why don't you come on home? It won't work. He says for me to call Harvey to the telephone.
Say Harvey's here, but he can't come to the phone because he's in the bathtub.
Bathtub?
Yes, say he's in the bathtub, and we'll send Harvey over to him when he's done. Then that will give us his location.
Oh, Doctor.
Now, you have to do it, Mrs. Simmons.
Hello. Yes, Elwood. Harvey's here. But he can't come to the telephone because he's in the bathtub. I'll send him over when he's dry. Where are you? Where? Oh,
Did he hang up?
he said Harvey just walked in the door. He says to go look upstairs in the bathtub. It must be a stranger. But I know where he's at. He's at Charlie's place. That's a bar over at 12th and Main.
12th and Main. That's 2 blocks down and 1 over, right?
Yes. Doctor, where are you going?
I'm going over there to get your brother and bring him back to the sanitarium where he belongs.
Oh, no, Doctor. Send one of your attendants. I'm warning you.
But if I'm to help your brother...
He can't be helped. He must be picked up and locked up and left.
Do you consider your brother a dangerous man?
Dangerous.
Why?
I won't tell you why, but if I didn't think he was, why would I be asking for a permanent commitment for him?
Then I must observe this man. I must watch his face as he talks to this rabbit. He does talk to the rabbit, you say?
They tell each other everything.
What was that?
I said of course he talks to the rabbit, but don't go over there. I'm warning you.
Nonsense. You underestimate me, Mrs. Simmons.
No, you underestimate my brother.
Not at all. Don't worry. I can handle him.
You can handle him? That's what you think. Myrtle Bay!